Okay, we're going to begin this video. We've just implemented target rings, and we see an example of a target ring attached to an NPC, and it is a projector onto the terrain. I can take and move the target ring to another target. It's important when we do move it to another target that we reset the position. So this is something we'll need to do manually for right now when we're doing this. But once done, that allows the target ring to follow the new position, the new parent. So it's a process of changing the parent and then resetting the position. So I think the first thing to do today in this video is to automate this process. And we did something like this in class, so we're going to do it very quickly right now, and that is to create a new script, which will be the target manager. Call it that. I use a lot of manager classes in my Unity programs. So the target manager will be one such class there. It is a mono behavior. I will double click on it and Visual Studio will come up and probably display the wrong file or do something crazy like that, but nope, we have it here. Brand new target manager, mono behavior. The only reason I want a mono behavior here is that I want to be able to pull the mouse during the targeting to check for target changes. Alright, so in this in this script here, we'll have to do a couple of things here. First, let me go back over here. Before I forget, I'm going to attach my target manager to something in the scene, and I'll put it as part of the terrain. Okay, so it just needs to be attached to something in the scene, and the terrain is a single object. This won't matter here. Now, it's hidden. It's likely to be forgotten. When I have multiple managers out there, I'll probably create a separate game object that will be an empty game object. It'll own all of the manager scripts, but for right now I'll just attach it to the terrain, and I'll just have to remember to look in the terrain anytime I'm looking for one of these little managers that are rather uncommon. Okay, so I have this. Let me bring up now the script. Excuse me for a second, I've got a cough here. Okay, so if you see me pausing the video a lot, it's because I want to cough off camera. Now, I need to keep a reference to the target ring, and so that will be it's okay for it to be a private game object target ring. It doesn't need to know what the type is, because all I care about is that it is a game object and that it has a transform. That's the only thing we need there. Start will be okay for right now. Sometimes I put things in awake. It depends on whether or not where I'm going to need it during the timeline of the game. So I will say target ring equals, and then game object dot find game object. And then I'll want to look at it with tags. I'm not sure if I tagged that object, but I will check it right now. I'm going to assume a target ring tag. And that's a pretty big assumption when I don't think it has a target ring tag on it. And I just selected it in the hierarchy. So there's the target ring. You see that it is untagged. I click on the tag drop down. There's no tag for target ring, so I'll add one. And I'll just have to click on this and add a new tag in there, and I'll call it target ring. Okay, and this allows me now to go back over here, select the target ring, and then assign the tag to it. So now there is a new tag there. This is just an attribute that we're going to give to an object, and we can check to see whether the tag is there or not, or we can search for objects with it. Now notice this is plural. This is singular. Find game object singular with tag. And if I hover over it, it shows that it returns a game object. So it'll return a reference to a game object, which is what I want. There's a find game objects plural with an S, that returns an array of game objects. I don't want that. Now there's only going to be one thing tagged target ring out there, so I'm free to accept the singular. What happens if there are multiple ones? Well, we get the very first one it finds and it returns it. So the first thing it finds with a target ring tag, that's what I'm going to get. And it turns out that will be enough. Now that's enough right now. I want to, just for debugging, say if target ring is not equal to null, and now I just want to say something like debug.log found target ring. Now I expect that I'm going to find it, but there's always a possibility that I won't find it due to some bug, which means that I am going to need to kind of double check later on that I'm that I have a reference before I just use it. So when it comes time to manipulate the target ring, such as when it comes time to reparent it. Okay, so we can check right now with this. I'll just save this script off and come back out here. Check off maximize on play so I can see my console. Clear the console. And we'll do this. Now I'm not sure where all those warnings are. We'll take a look at it. But I see is I immediately found a target ring. That's good. So I don't need that message anymore. So I can safely get rid of this. Does that mean that target ring is always going to be there? Well, no. It means that if I accidentally remove the target ring or remove the tag, target ring will be a null reference. So I'll need to double check that I actually have a reference to it before I do too much down below. Okay, let me check for a second. Now before I can start to use the target ring, the purpose of having this target ring reference is so I can reassign it upon clicking in the scene with the mouse. That was the whole point about getting rid of the mouse look and freeing up the mouse. So while I'm down here inside my update, I will want to check the mouse press, and I will do that via input.get button up, which will be the release of mouse 0, capital M, mouse 0. Okay, now it's highlighted input because I don't have that. I may need to interface into the input system. Get button up. Oh, I need to assign it. Say, did I not bring in an import? Okay. Now I will want to check it. No harm done here. Make sure that I have it, and what I will do upon checking it is, first of all, let's do a debug.log. Once again, mouse press scene. Once again, I want to do the minimum that I can to make sure that I'm accessing, not save as. I want you to save that. And I'm going to go back over here and run the program. Mouse 0 input button is not set up. Oh, well, maybe I should go and do that then. This would be under Edit, Project Settings Input, and I need to have a mouse 0. Now, I have one here called Fire, which is really just here, rename it mouse 0. This is now the reference to mouse 0. Okay, so reset that, and we have now cleared that out. I will click on something, and it sees every time I release the mouse button, we get a mouse press scene. Good. And so it was important to do these little debugging steps because it caught the fact that the axis didn't exist. That input thing didn't exist. So I didn't have far to go and look before typing this. So now what happens when the mouse press really is seen here? Rather than just printing this message out, I don't care about the message anymore. I know I'm detecting mice here. What I'm going to use is a raycast hit. Now I need a variable raycast hit. I could declare it here and make the reference, but you know, this is something that I'm going to be using a lot. So I'll make a private variable, raycast hit, raycast hit. That's a good name for it. And then I'll have to go and create it up here. Equals new raycast hit. Okay, so now I've initialized it. The reason I do that is I don't want to have to reinitialize it all over the time, all over the place, certainly not every frame. So now I can just say if physics dot raycast. So I'm going to cast a ray out from the camera dot main dot call screen point to ray, and I say I want to start with input dot mouse position. Okay, that's the first location that we're going to look, and I want you to put it in the raycast hit variable. And I think that would, it says ray and the max distance. That's one of the possibilities we could get. We click this up here. It's enough just to say screen point array, and I can leave it right there. Oops. What I can't see is, look. Unfortunately, this editor doesn't highlight my matching parentheses like I'm used to. Now, I use other forms of the raycast hit where I'll specify a distance and I'll tell it what layers I want to ignore on the raycast. We could do that stuff later. For right now, let's just check the raycast as quickly as possible. And you know what, the first thing I can do again is another debug message and say I just hit plus the raycast hit, that thing, and what I'll get back is that raycast thing. It'll have a collider in it, and the collider will have a game object, and the game object will have a name. Okay, so that should take care of that, and we should get a message indicating what we've hit. So I'll go back over here, and you can probably see the mouse better than I can. Excuse me. So I click on this. This is I hit the train. Click on this guy. I've hit this model. The trees all show up as train hits. The sky doesn't show anything. Okay, so let's go back over here and turn this off. And that's a case where else debug.log didn't hit anything. That's the other case that we should consider. Now, I'm not going to do anything about it, but I want to make sure that we're really clear 100% on here I'm getting the train. Back here's the train. There's the didn't hit anything. There's this guy. And if I move around the scene, I thought I might have some other things there. There's a it looks like a cube over here. And it says I hit the cube. Okay, so I'm able to pick out individual things that are in the hierarchy here. Okay, now it is interesting that it found the work, it didn't find NPC. Oops, why does it say, what did I say, hit terrain? It did. And I'm clicking on him. We'll have to look into that in a little bit. That may be a bug in the way the model is. I might be clicking through the model. Some part might not be opaque. But I'm not planning on selecting the terrain. I'm not planning on targeting the terrain. So this won't really be a problem there. We'll just ignore the terrain as a possible target. And if we click on something, nothing happens. You'll click on it again, maybe a little different spot. It'll all work out. I've never seen that before. It also might be a problem with using the smaller screen. Let me just go full screen and see if I can. Well, of course I can't see. Yeah, I got a couple of train hits there. Okay. So not 100% happy with how it did that, but this is the raycast that's coming out of the physics system. Now, I can. What makes a valid target? What makes something I want to target? Here, one possibility. Back up. Bring this back up. Is that I could take and assign targets, tags to them. Okay. So if I just do that briefly here, and I'll just add one more tag here, and I'll call it enemy. This would allow me to target this as a potential enemy, as something that would be targeted, and leave off the other tags. So what I could do then is to come here and say something like, if raycast. Rather than doing that, though, let me just take and create a game object here. It's raycast hit.collider.game object. Okay, now let me first of all reduce this down to object.name, which doesn't help me too much. Let's save this. I don't know if object may be reserved, and it may not let me, whoops, do that. Okay, it's not going to let me do that. Here, I'll just call it Geo for game object. Geo. All right. Fair enough. The reason for doing that is that I want to say something like if geo dot, and there's compare tag, and I can say if it's an enemy, then I want to set the target. Otherwise, we'll just ignore it. Let me go back here and turn off maximize on play, switch to the console, and then I can hit that. That's a targetable thing. Train is not targetable. The only other targetable thing here, let's see. It's interesting, my run speed's a little off here, and that is the cube is targetable. Okay, I'm looking at the third-person character here. Okay. I'm not seeing what I was looking for, but that's all right. Let's not get sidetracked. Now I have a way of setting a target, but I'm not doing anything with that actually changes the target. So this is where I'm going to switch my notes over here and say that if I found something that is a legitimate target, instead of printing out a message saying it hit a target, what I will do is say let's see, I want to set the parent to this. And I will change how this is done in a little bit, but for right now, target ring dot, I want to set the transform dot parent to equal to the transform of whatever our game object is. Okay, so now it's a parented there. Now I will say also target ring dot transform dot local position equals new vector 3 0, make it 2 0, and I've reset the position on the target ring. I made it a little bit above ground on the Y side so that it projects down correctly. And then target ring dot transform dot local rotation equals Quaternion dot Euler and 90 0 90. It's important that when I reset the position of it that I get it pointed sideways, because the target ring needs to project downwards in order to look correct. Okay, so if I click here, we have a target ring attached to them, and that's good. I click on the train, no target assignments done. Run over here to the cube and say target that. And what we should see here, we get over here, is that there is a target ring there. Now, it seems to be projecting onto the target ring and causing a shadow, onto the cube. So I'll want to lower that down a little bit more. Okay, so the vector 3 takes floating point numbers there. So 0.5 f should be enough to drop it down. Later we'll fix it by changing it so that we project onto. See, we're still hitting this guy. If I want to look at it here, since I'm in the debugger, I can click this over here and we see indeed the rotation is correct, the height seems to be correct, and it's doing that again. Let me click on a target ring, and where is it in the scene view? Okay, so if I bring it down further, you can see the if I bring it down here, and actually if I go negative on this elevation, it seems to project correctly without any problems here, although we do have this shadow, and that's the shadow from the light being cast on that. That's really the shader that's being done, and it is projecting onto my work from below. If I increase the height of this, there. Okay, so going negative seems to make this so that it doesn't project onto the creature, but a better solution would be is to have it positive and have it to ignore certain layers, and we'll just put certain creatures in layers. Okay, so that's the first part there, is to have a target manager that lets us target. Later we'll expand that to include special target types, so that we'll have target types. Now the next thing that we did in class was the billboards. So let's do a quick introduction to billboards. And the idea is that we want to be able to label things in the game. We want to be able to put text labels onto things. It's not so important right now with the cube and stuff like that, but if I have a creature, I certainly want to have a label set associated with it, especially if the model is likely to be reused for other things. And I am going to want labels for my waypoints when I put them in for the AI third-person controller. So the idea behind the billboard is a polygon, a quad really, that faces the camera all the time. So it'll be a textured quad that faces the camera. And we'll texture it with a UI canvas. So just to create it carefully here, we can just create a game object UI canvas. And so we get this. Now an event system comes into is created immediately when the UI is brought in. So that's just a thing for the UI. The UI also is a special type of 2D object there. It's huge, and I cannot, well, I can here. I can edit the size here. I was not able to the other day in class. You know, I think it might have been because of a bug in and not call that D. I want this is going to be my billboard. Okay, so 100 by 100. Okay, so we'll zoom in on that. So my billboard is selected. Why can I not move it? Also, it keeps resetting its size, and that's not good. First of all, make it into world space, please. Now I can move it around, reset it. I will take the billboard, and I'm going to start by assigning it to my cube as a child, and then I'll reset the position. Reset the size, but it means that I can double click on my cube, and I have my billboard, which is pretty big. Let's shrink it down more to be 10 by 10, or let's make it 40 by 30, so it's a 4/3 aspect ratio. It doesn't matter too much because this is just an empty canvas. What I do want to create inside here is a UI TextMix Pro text field. Okay, so that will now appear inside here. And you can see it's pretty big. The direct text transform here, 40 by 30. And let's scale it down to 0.2, 0.2, or let's change the scale over here, 0.2, 0.2, and make this guy, put these back at 1 there. Actually, we can just drag this up here, but this is way too big. Okay, a little bit better. Now the billboard's position is 0, and I can move it around here. In my TextMesh Pro text, I can center the text this way, and let me change the transform to be over here. Now it's backwards, but that's okay. We'll fix that. The other thing I want to do is to change the color, which I can do from here. And I like it to be in the blues here, and drag this over here. Maybe some really aqua. That's nice. Now it blends in with the sky pretty well, which is an important consideration because I don't want it to show up in the sky. But I have my outline settings right here, and I can take and enable an outline, increase the outline, and you can see I get an outline color there. I get a black around that, and that will help it when it's in the sky. Alright, so when we view it up here, even when it's in similar colors there, the black will still make it look good. We just need to have some contrasting color with the text. Okay, and so I'll just call it I'm having a little trouble with my caps lock key, enemy. And we'll assign it to that. Okay, so this is not a billboard yet, but it is text, and I can take this billboard here and move it to the NPC. I click on, excuse me, I click on my orc. Why are you not showing me? Okay, so there he is. And the billboard, its position is wrong. Reset the position. And we see this. So I do want the I want the billboard's position to be reset. And what I'll do is I'll move the TextMesh component to be above the item there. It's still a little bit big here. 0.01 5 there, rather. 0.05. Okay. And that's what we get there. And you can see it down here in the view. If I click on this here, my let's make it maximize on play. And my billboard's not moving along with them. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, that's because it's I think it's tackling along with well, that's not true. My target ring moves. Remembering that I need to reset the position. Rotation is still fine here. So if I grab this guy, alright, well, apparently if I move him that way, he's not taking its thing with him. And that's the controller that I'm using. Not going to worry about it that way. I know that if I do move the NPC, that the ring and the tag go with them, which is what we'll want. Okay, I'll just need to make sure that we move the NPC around with this real controller when we set that up. Okay, but my biggest problem that I have right now is that that text is not automatically facing the camera. If I move this billboard over here to the cube, and if I reset that position, I double click on the cube. Cube has its enemy label located above it. way above it in this case, so I'll need to make some adjustments for that. But as if I move the camera around, the text does not face the camera. I'm beginning to not like this multi-purpose camera rig because it's fighting me, but you can see it's not facing the camera. Alright, so how do we do that? Well, we need to create a new script here, and that will be inside of our scripts, and I'll call that billboard. And I think I'll spell billboard a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. And a billboard script can be attached to anything that I want to have billboarding behavior, not necessarily just a billboard. If I want it to face the camera. Alright, so this is where I'll want it can be private. Camera, camera. And I'll put this in wake. Why are you making it private? It's not private. And the M. Alright, look. Camera equals camera.main. And if I come down here on an update, what I'll do, now that I've cached a reference to it, I've done that once, I can take the transform to whatever game object we attached this to and call look at transform.position plus m camera dot transform dot rotation times vector3 dot forward. So I've picked a point that is in at the camera position, and I've moved forward a certain amount. Okay, and added that to our current position. And then the next parameter here will be m camera dot transform dot rotation times vector3 dot up. Okay, and that will take care of that little thing. That should point at our camera there. So I should be able to take this billboard script and just assign it to the billboard. Because the script class can't be found. Let's take a look at this. Because I renamed it. Look, billboard. Alright, billboard. You get this script behavior here. And we click on run. And you can see the word enemy clearly visible. And it rotates to face the camera. Again, it rotates to face the camera. Okay, and it's a lot smoother rotation than it might appear because we're fighting with this third-person multi-purpose camera rig, but it is showing billboard behavior. All right, so that's that takes care of that problem there. We're ready to begin our AI third-person controller with waypoints. So I'll end this video at this point.